All right. I think this is a good time to get started. Thank you everybody for coming and hopping in. This is going to be a pretty fun time. Um, I think we can get started. Thank you everybody for coming. This is the second episode of Off the Chain with the BitMart team. Today we're talking about Web3 in 2023. What's new and what's next? And a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about today is going to be about, kind of looking forward into the year that's going to come. We've had a pretty tumultuous 2022, but I think us and a lot of the guests that are going to be coming in and to talk to us are going to have a lot of different opinions about the things that we're going to see coming into 2023. And so we have a really great lineup for you guys. Uh, so I guess first off, I think it's kind of important to understand why we want to go ahead and chat about what's going to happen in 2023 and why we wanted to frame this as kind of Web3 specifically. And I think before we kind of go into that, it's really important to understand like why Web3, and I think we all kind of know what Web3 is, but kind of how we got to where we are. And kind of the steps. So obviously we started with Web 1, which was kind of the ability to get read and write on the internet, right? And the ability to kind of transfer information across the world kind of as fast as possible. And that was I would say kind of like early internet days. I would say something like early 90s to mid 90s all the way through like the early 2000s. I mean, that was kind of like, we saw blogs get really popular. We saw the transfer of information on a worldwide level become almost instantaneous. And I think that's when we kind of start to see the creation of Web 2, right? Which is really like right around the early social media days. I would say like, mid 2000s, 2005, 2006, 2007, all the way until kind of the end of the kind of 2000 teens. I would say something like 2016, 17, 18. And that was really, marked by the rise of social media, the ability to have video and media transferred at light speed, right? And for worldwide access, and the transfer of everything from video streaming to multimedia pictures, and that was kind of the advent of social media, and really allowed us to have full communication across the world at any given time. Whether it's video chatting, sending pictures to friends and things like that, and then now we really think that we're kind of hitting this point of Web 3, where now the transfer of value is going to be instantaneous, borderless, at any given level. And so that's kind of why we wanted to frame this conversation around Web 3 in 2023, and what's new, what's going to be happening. So really excited for everybody joining us. I do want to mention that we do have a little bit of an agenda today, and I can kind of run through that really quickly. There's a few things I want to hit before we get started. So first, in a couple minutes, I'm going to bring on Nick, who is the uh, VP of marketing at BitMart, as well as Wes Kapalan, who's the CEO of Cointelegraph US. We're gonna have them do a little quick Q&A about some of their thoughts about some of the things happening in the space. Then we're going to go into our leading project partners, where we have Alex, co-founder of Rarible. We have Stefan from Lagu.na. We have Josh Fraser from Origin, Elsa from BitMetis, even Ivan Linn from Wavv, and Conductor of Assassin's Creed, and then Sandy Carter from Unstoppable Domains. Then we're gonna, after we kind of go into some discussions about leading projects, we're gonna go into a venture discussion with some of our venture partners. We're gonna have Yida of Shima. We're gonna have James Parillo from Figment. We're gonna have Peter Yang from Fenbushi Capital, Maria Chak from Republic Crypto, Kenny Wu from Emurgo Ventures, Eric Bai at Cipholio Ventures, and Paul Solntsev, who's the head of the Cointelegraph Accelerator. And then also Miss Lee Fan, who is the chief strategy officer at BitMart, is going to be coming in there to kind of help some of those discussions. And then lastly, we're going to have a little section where we talk about L1s and L2s and kind of the future of the scaling and infrastructure space. And we're going to have Jasmine Wan, co-founder of Sui World. We're going to have Greg Hemmer from Shardium, and Chris from Conflux Network. We have some really great partners that have been able to help us make this happen. We have Cointelegraph, Whale Coin Talk, Crypto Feed, Hulk or Die, Elite Crypto, and many more amazing partners who have helped make this happen. And one last thing I want to mention before we get back into it is the BitMart team has been amazing enough to put together some giveaways. So at the end of each section, after our leading project section, our crypto venture section, and our L1 and L2 section, we're going to be having a small giveaway. We're going to be asking some questions. The questions are going to have a tweet posted, and we'll go ahead and pin that tweet. And we're going to have 3 questions, and the first person to answer those questions are going to win 100 USDT. The first person to answer those, and then we're also going to be giving away 10 USDT each to 20 lucky winners that attend this space. So in total, there's going to be 3 winners for 100 USDT each, and then there's going to be 20 winners for 10 USDT. And so definitely we want the crowd to stick around for some of these giveaways that are going to be happening. But I think that is all we have on the admin. And a lot of these answers are going to be able to be found on the ecosystem report. And that is pinned on the main BitMart tweets, the main BitMart Twitter accounts pinned tweets. So you can check out our yearly recap for BitMart, and that'll kind of give you a little bit of hints for some of the answers. So without further ado, I would love to bring on Nick Hoog, who is the VP of Marketing at BitMart, and he's going to be having a quick chat with Wes Kapalan, who's the CEO of Cointelegraph US. So Nick and Wes, feel free to hop off mute, and would love you guys to pick your guys, or for you guys to pick each other's brains for a little bit and tell us about some of your thoughts about the space. If we could have Nick and Wes hop up here. I see they're already on stage.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you perfectly, Wes.
Okay, great. Thanks so much.
Oh, great.
And let's just wait for Nick.
Yes, just hopped on. Thank you so much for the introduction, Ishan. Really, really great lineup today. It's a pleasure to be here, and we are so excited and honored to have Wes Kapalan, CEO of Cointelegraph US, with us for this special AMA. Wes, thank you for joining us today. How are you?
I'm doing great. First off, thank you so much for having me. It's great to speak with you, Nick, and talk to you again, and to join the BitMart community. And looking forward to today's discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. It's truly, truly our pleasure. I know that we have a lot of listeners who are eager to learn more about Web3 in 2023. So let's go ahead and dive in if you don't mind.
Sure, let's do it.
All right. So as we move from a Web 2 era into Web 3, what do you think some of the biggest challenges we face to increase crypto adoption and Web 3 are? You know, is it awareness? Is it infrastructure? Is it educating the public? You know, we're really just looking for your thoughts here as a leader in the industry.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's almost a twofold question. So I'm going to answer this at an industry level and then from a marketing perspective as well. So I think it's a combination of all, from an industry level, I think it's a combination of all the things that you just mentioned, right? Education and awareness. Like right now, everybody knows that we're dealing with this aftermath and nightmare of the FTX saga, right? And so what companies really need to be doing right now, they need to be providing value. And I really truly believe that the value-oriented projects out there will be our MVPs that survive, right? Other things that, are some challenges that we face are, regulation and KYC, right? What can be controlled, what cannot be controlled? I'm looking at things like on-ramps, proof of reserve, proof of liabilities. I think these things are coming in 2023. And then additionally, I think you need to have trust and security. So security from bad actors. I mean, I think we've, as an industry, lost over, $2 billion in 2022. I mean, that's ridiculous. So we really need to practice better security and really improve our infrastructure in that sense and build the trust that we need amongst participants of the ecosystem, whether that be exchanges, market makers, governments, or the consumer or trader, right? And then when I think about it from a marketing point of view, some of the bigger challenges is really almost a comparison between marketing in Web 2 and marketing in Web 3, right? When you think about brand, right? In Web 2, brand is narrative driven, but in Web 3, it's really driven by the community. When you think about platform, right? It's owned by the audience and the community shapes the platform. Well, in Web3, the audience owns the platform. The platform is shaped by the community. And so, you're really looking at a different user experience than traditional segments. And that's what I think we need to migrate to, is more of a seamless Web3 marketing offering, where we're able to use what we have at our disposal to really go viral. Because, in Web 2, it's easy to achieve virality, right? But in Web 3, virality is smaller and harder to achieve. So it's really important that you do great marketing in order to kind of get ahead in this space.
Absolutely. One thing that you just touched on is value. And, I think that the industry has done a really great job at discussing, our technology and blockchain and decentralization and all of the nuances of Web3. But one thing that the industry, I think, really badly needs is to help the public to better understand the day-to-day use cases. So I'm really, really glad that you touched on value. I certainly think that that's something that is desperately needed in the industry. And of course, better regulation, KYC you touched on as well. All of those things are really going to help to contribute to the future growth of Web3 and to provide that infrastructure to allow more people to become familiar and comfortable with decentralization in Web3.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Mm-hmm. So, one thing that I'm kind of wondering here are, what trends are you seeing as it relates to marketing in the Web3 space? And really, what should companies be doing now to bolster the industry?
That's a great question, Nick. So let's break this again into two, right? What I'm seeing and what I think we should be doing as an industry, right? What I'm seeing companies either going one or two ways, right? They're either diving deeper into the marketing and advertising and seizing the moment, if you will, of the opportunity to rise amongst the ranks within the crypto community. And, or unfortunately, you're seeing some, to use a trading term, capitulation among some of the projects out there, right? So there's definitely market share opportunities. New companies need to ensure, and this goes back to your value point, they're building projects that are compliant, needed, and valued, right? And it kind of has, some similarities in what to do here in the sense of, we need reasons to believe as a community. And I feel like that's what the industry is looking for, right? So, as an industry and, projects in the space, what do we need to do? Companies need to define their value proposition, right? In order for you to be successful, you should be able to clearly and succinctly be able to define who you are, what you do, and why people should care about something that's a little bit overly technical, and getting over that hump and really getting through the jargon and making it simple for people to understand, right? Keep it simple, stupid, right? Mm-hmm. Oftentimes in the crypto space, we're confronted with people that are skeptical and don't like to be marketed to. So it's not just enough to push a value prop, but you need to figure out how to make that value prop convincing. And when you position your project, or idea and holding up an ethos, right, you start to build that demand. And then, additionally, I think you need to, the community, in terms of what they need to do from a marketing angle, right, they need to understand their target audience. You can't market to people if you don't know who they are. So by defining your target audience, it's going to be key to your successful marketing planning, right? Mm-hmm. You want to at least know who they are, what they care about, what challenges they face, where they engage, and why should they be interested in your project or a project, right? And then I would say, lastly, you need to select your marketing channels. In a time when there's an abundant amount of different channels, but there's only really, a few that are widely used, right? Telegram, Twitter, Discord. But people need to be doing analysis of their target audience to determine which one of those platforms is really best for their audience, so that they can provide engaging and consuming content in a more targeted strategy. So that's kind of how I what I'm seeing and how I would handle and approach from a marketing point of view.
Mm-hmm. And you have a really impressive background in brand development and marketing, of course. I think that you're giving really great advice here about, a good brand and a good company really delivers their value proposition to give people a reason to believe. So I'm curious if you can kind of hone in a little bit more there. Do you have any advice on how Web3 entrepreneurs and companies can effectively communicate the advantages of Web3 to their communities in ways that perhaps they'll better understand?
Absolutely. I got a bunch of tips, but I'll try and keep it concise because I know we got a lot of great speakers coming on today.
Sure.
But I think the first thing in terms of advice is, look, content is king. But community is kind of the emperor in proper marketing, and make sure that you invest in the marketing, right? So you can kind of think of them as dual monarchs, right? Content is the backbone of your marketing, but it can come from anywhere. And by creating an effective, engaged community, you not only have a loyal group of users who are ready to hear your message, but they're also ready to amplify and eventually help create content for you. The next thing I would highly recommend, is really honing in on messaging and branding, right? And that's for any marketer out there trying to push a product, exchange, etc. Right? And that's just on the marketing side. And then when you move over to the more holistic side, right? Like, how do you grow and get your brand out there? Well, you need to get out there, right? You need to network. You need to meet other people in the space. You need to take notes and learn and ask questions, and then also contribute and build and provide ideas. And then, I wouldn't say last, because I have one more. I would say PR, right? You should always be looking for ways to provide valuable commentary on areas where you feel like you're a subject matter expert. Grow your company's brand through thought leadership, right? And if you take all of these things, the messaging, the content marketing, the social media, the community management, performance marketing, et cetera, right? And you weave them together, that's when you start to see the magic happen. And that's when you start to see integrated, we like to call them integrated marketing campaigns, because
we're back. Amazing.
All right. Yeah, I think we got rugged a little bit by Twitter. But glad to have everybody back. Looks like Nick is still connecting. But yeah, would love for Wes and Nick to kind of help bring us back in and kind of wrap up that last couple sections.
Sure. So while Nick's joining, I can kind of just finish what I was saying. Is Nick, did he join yet, or is he still connecting?
He's still connecting, yeah. But if he's not able to, we can just kind of move the conversation along.
Yeah. So I mean, just to sum it up, what I was saying is taking all the components of the different marketing types of the mix, the marketing mix, right? Your PR, your content marketing, your social media marketing, your community management, and building integrated marketing campaigns that are focused on, strong call to actions and really one mission, is really one way to really develop and grow your brand and your marketing for that brand. So yeah, that kind of answers your question, and then I'm happy to continue to provide some insights on anything else that you'd like to discuss.
Yeah, I totally agree when it comes to kind of using the entirety of the stack, right? Especially in Web3
Yep.
marketing right now, we don't really have access to all of the tools in the Web2 toolbox. Like for example, ad campaigns on social media is still a little
Oh
bit
my
tough
God,
getting
it's
the
a
right
nightmare.
approvals. And that's really unfortunate because there's it's kind of a shrouded by the bad actors when there's actually a lot of like really great projects that are doing some really revolutionary things that really would find access to those channels very beneficial because there's consumers out there that want these things, right?
Absolutely. I mean, if you just think about what's going on right now with Google, right, and how they're being charged by the U.S. right for their ad campaigns, and you think about crypto, and unless you have a FinCEN license, it's almost impossible to break that barrier of entry to even do SEM and paid marketing ads through the biggest search provider in the world. So we have a long way to go as it relates to kind of breaking through some of these barriers that traditional Web 2 hasn't really had to deal with at the same scale as Web 3.
Yeah, definitely. I could not agree more. I do want to ask while we're getting Nick up here,
Mm-hmm.
Since you have such an impressive background in brand development and marketing, do you have any like kind of I guess we kind of went through this. So like what about Cointelegraph, right? Like do you
Mm-hmm.
guys have anything up and coming in 2023 that you guys are kind of particularly excited about? I guess
Yeah.
Cointelegraph US specifically, but yeah, would love to hear about some of the things you guys have going on.
Yeah, sure. So we have a lot of really exciting things coming along. So one thing that we just did is we just launched our podcast. So definitely tune in, check out some of our podcasts. We're really, really excited about that. And in addition, we have this unbelievable kind of secret department called CT Studio within Cointelegraph that is a full marketing service agency that is pretty full stack, right? Today actually we had, in addition, we launched the what is it called, the pre-sale for our Snoop Dogg and Billy Ray NFT, and we actually had Snoop Dogg give us a little bit of love in a tweet to our collaborative partners, Animal Concerts, and that collection is called The Hardworking Man, and it's pretty cool because you'll get the opportunity to purchase NFTs that can get you Snoop Dogg concert tickets, backstage passes, airline gift cards. It's really redeemable focus, and it's for the hardworking man. So it's very, very cool. And then, I'll just give this community a little hint without spilling the beans too much, but we have this unbelievable market analysis tool called Markets Pro. And, we might have some upcoming things towards the middle of February coming out, maybe some new releases or stuff of that nature that we're really looking forward to, but I don't want to spill the beans too much, but, definitely stay tuned. And I'll keep it at that because don't want to go too deep into Cointelegraph. I want to keep us focused here.
Well, that's awesome. Super exciting. Please remind us again that the name of the NFT project with Snoop Dogg and remind us of that again.
It's called A Hardworking Man, and that's the collection, and it's with Billy Ray Cyrus and Snoop Dogg. And you can find details on our website about that, or on Animal Concert's website. I'd be happy to drop a link or something like that. But again, want to stay focused on the content at hand.
Yeah, that's awesome. I hope the audience kind of keeps track of that. Sounds like there's some serious alpha being dropped. So feel free to check out Hardworking Man. You can find more information on the Cointelegraph website and also on Markets Pro. So it sounds like a really, really useful informational tool. So super excited about those.
Yeah.
Thank you again for your time, Wes. This was super helpful and super generous of you to kind of come in and hang out with us for a little bit. So we really appreciate the insight and super excited for everything we're going to see at Cointelegraph US this year.
Thanks so much. Really, really happy to be here and enjoy and look forward to enjoying this space with everybody.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it again, and I appreciate everybody for sticking around and helping us kind of get back on track after our slight rug. But excited to kind of keep this going. I'd love for us to kind of move a little closer to our next section, where we have an awesome opportunity to talk with some leading projects. So I would love to bring on stage. We have 6 super amazing, high-ranking officials from a variety of projects. So we have Alex Salnikov, co-founder of Rarible. We have Stefan Rust, founder of Lagu.na. We have Josh Fraser, who is the co-founder at Origin Protocol. We have Elsa, a founder of BitMetis. We have Ivan Linn, founder of Wavv. And last but not least, we have Miss Sandy Carter, Senior Vice President and Channel Chief of Unstoppable Domains. So I just want to make sure we got everybody up here. I see Alex, I see Sandy, I see Ivan. Couple more we are holding out on. I see Mr. Josh Fraser. Would love to get him up here as well. But I guess while we're getting that sorted out, I would love to start, and maybe with Miss Sandy, since you've been up here for a little bit. I guess the first thing I kind of want to start with was one of the cool things about this leading project section is we have some experts in a lot of different niches, whether it's NFTs or DeFi or some of these kind of mixed bags of kind of whether it's NFT-fi or infrastructure. And I would love to ask, and I guess we could start with Miss Sandy. In your kind of in your respective niche, and I guess this case is, I guess in infrastructure, I find it really difficult to kind of categorize the domain category because there's so many different ways you can do a lot of this domain stuff, and so many different categories you can activate. How do you think Web3 is kind of positioned to bring a lot of disruption to kind of your Web2, call it peers, call it adversaries?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. You guys host a great Twitter space, so thank you so much. The category I'd put us in is digital identity. And I think the disruption with this project is that, if you think about digital identity in the Web2 space, your digital identity is tied to a platform. So you go and you sign into Google, or you go sign into TikTok or to Twitter or Facebook, and your identity is tied to that application, which means that the data from that application stays with them. And we know that Google and Facebook alone, just those two alone, made $100 billion on selling your data, my data, in that model. Well, now if we flip to Web3, the disruption here is that with a digital identity in Web3, which is manifest through a domain, as you log into an application, that digital identity stays with you. So you own it. It travels with you through the metaverse. You log on, and any data that is gathered belongs to you. So first of all, I think digital identity is a human right. I think that owning your own data, what you share about yourself, is who you are. And so we all should be able to own that ourselves and then be able to get rewarded for that data. So today, I was listening to Wes talk about marketing. If you think about marketing today, people buy lists from Facebook or from Google, and then they market to it, assuming a 30 to 40% fraudulent rate, give their customers a small discount because they've already paid a lot of money to the big platform players. In Web3, that reward goes straight to you, the user. The user owns it. And so, you could get much larger discounts for sharing your data. But the main point is that you own it. So you decide when it's shared, how much it's shared, and for how long it's shared too. And for me, that's a huge disruption. And it's why I'm in the space today.
I love that. That's so beautiful, and it really is commendable to come at it from that angle. And it's the identity part of it is I think going to be so key to the transition, because it allows you to really break the middleman, right? And really kind of take away this kind of rent-seeking middleman who is able to extract most of the value from the exchange, but now we can just connect straight from kind of buyer and seller of data, or user of data from transmitter of data, or creator of the data directly, and in order for the value capture to be in who deserves the value capture, right? And not just kind of these middlemen who create the infrastructure too.
That's right. I agree. And in the future, you could imagine that digital identity holding healthcare data, education diplomas. Today, we hold tickets, digital tickets, and your sustainability score if you're a company. There's just so much. It's so super powerful. I'm very passionate about it. So thanks for allowing me to share a little bit about our project.
Of course, no, the passion seeps through, definitely. I'd love to pause that same question. I just want to go in order and make sure we hit Mr. Josh Fraser from Origin Protocol. I'd love for you to kind of hit that same question of, how do you kind of think Web3 and kind of in your kind of respective niche of kind of Origin, which is kind of have so many vast use cases. How do you think you guys are kind of positioned to bring disruption to your Web2 counterparties?
Yeah, well, Origin has products that are tackling both DeFi and NFTs. So I can speak to each of those separately. On the DeFi front, we have Origin Dollar or USD, which is a yield-bearing stablecoin that earns yield while it's sitting in your wallet. You can think of it as the easiest way to get access to the best yields in DeFi without any of the hassles. And the three big disruptive qualities of DeFi, I think, are the transparency, the flexibility, and the permissionlessness of it. And we can take those one by one. For the transparency, I think that's pretty obvious after the fallout of this past year with FTX, FreeAC, Celsius, BlockFi, etc. We are reminded of how important it is to be able to see exactly what's going on. And DeFi is here to save us from pinky promise, funds are safe finance. We want to know that the funds are there. And it's really telling that during the crash and all of the drama of last year, true DeFi, things like Compound, Aave, Uniswap, they all held up just fine, and everyone could see on chain without a question that all the funds were there, everything was solvent and collateralized. And so I think that transparency is something that has been missing from traditional finance and the Web2 world for a long time. The second thing is flexibility. The composability and convenience of DeFi is really unparalleled. Where else can you take out a multi-million-dollar loan without signing any paperwork or having to talk to anyone? And you can do it in 15 seconds from anywhere in the world. And then the way you can stack different DeFi protocols together is really, really cool. And that composability just allows us to do things that just aren't possible in the traditional world. And then finally, the permissionless nature of it makes it so much more inclusive. A couple of examples here. I have a friend who had 3 of his bank accounts closed just because he was unfortunate enough to have been born in Russia. Had another friend, he runs an e-commerce site, and PayPal froze all of the funds in his account because they had a suspicious spike in sales on Black Friday. And crypto fixes this. This is exactly the sort of bullshit that crypto is here to solve. On the NFT side, the other product we have is Origin Story, and we've been fortunate to host multiple record-breaking sales, starting with Blau's sale that did $11.7 million and really ushered NFTs into mainstream consciousness. We've also been fortunate to work with people like Paris Hilton and some of the hottest NFT collections out there, like Pudgy Penguins. And one of the things I'm most excited about is seeing NFTs starting to transition from purely speculative assets into delivering real utility and real world value. A pretty cool example here is what we're working on with our partners at Roofstock. They're a unicorn company in the real estate business. They've actually been tokenizing homes. And so we recently helped facilitate the sale of a home on the blockchain. Someone bought an NFT, and with the transfer of that NFT, they took legal ownership of that property. And when you compare and contrast that to how sales are usually performed in the Web2 world, you're sending someone down to the local courthouse to ruffle through filing cabinets to see if there's any liens against that property and try and figure out if you actually own it or not. And the process is so flawed, you actually have to have title insurance just in case you miss something. And so this is something that blockchain technology is really disruptive for as well. We can actually have clear, indisputable title to who owns what. This works great for digital assets, which we've seen. But I think we're starting to see that, hey, you can connect this into the real world as well. And I think we're only started to scratch the surface and understanding just how disruptive this technology can be.
Yeah, I think that was awesome insight, and I'm really excited for kind of and I think Origin is kind of at the center of it, which is this intersection of DeFi and NFTs, and whether you call it NFTFi or something else. I really think like the kind of the financial services plus the kind of documentation side. And I think like the Roofstock example is a perfect kind of example of being able to bridge those two together, and the kind of dynamic value creation you get from getting the efficiency of DeFi on the financial side. You can get kind of the security and safety, and offsetting a lot of the trust of documentation to the NFT side, and then you combine both of those and you get like orders of magnitude more value. So I definitely think that was incredible insight. I would love to also move over, kind of stick with the same question, and move over to Alex from Rarible, and kind of same question, and understanding how entrenched Rarible is into the kind of NFT landscape. Like, how do you think Rarible is kind of positioned to bring disruption to some of the kind of Web2 parallel companies you might see?
Thanks for having me. It's a great question. Rarible started as a marketplace, and now we are more and more evolving into the infrastructure product that allows you to use API or to create your own marketplace using our enterprise offering or a standalone builder. And it's a funny way to put the question, because for the NFT, there is not even many parallel products in the Web2, and that's the real promise of Web3. Web3 is not doing some product better than Web2. Web3 is enabling new kind of products, and NFT is the completely new kind of product that just didn't exist before. You never really owned anything in Web2 in terms of content. All the content is like shared on somebody else owned platforms, and it was never interoperable. So I guess the main disruptive property of Web3 is interoperability in terms of the NFT per se. In DeFi, transparency and security is important, but NFT massively benefit from interoperability. There is no, like, Web3 enables Metaverse, because when we say Metaverse, we imagine something that is united, something that you can travel from one place to another. And old Web2, in that sense, it was kind of siloed spaces with glass walls between them. Now you can have your wallet, you can bring your items to Facebook, to Instagram, to Twitter, to OpenSea, to Rarible, to any place with just your one identity, that is your wallet. And this is the most important disruptive quality of Web3 out there. You can bring your stuff, and that makes the world into a universe rather than just like a couple different spaces.
I think you bring up a really great point of the interoperability, right? That's kind of the key feature that's never been possible in Web2, and that's going to unlock, like, I typically not the biggest fan when people use the metaverse term, because I don't think necessarily they use it in the right way, but I think that's the perfect way of like just this interoperability of experiences that you get that really are only unlocked by NFTs, and that's gonna disrupt like a whole host of areas within kind of Web2. Really appreciate the insight there. I'd love to move to Stefan, who is the founder of Lagu.na, and I'd love to hear just kind of a little bit of your take on the same topic, and I think this is kind of more of in the infrastructure niche. But how do you kind of think Web3 is positioned to bring disruption to like Web2 infrastructure, and how does kind of Lagu.na and Trueflation and Nuon kind of help in those things?
Yeah, thanks for having me here, and glad I found the right link. So thanks for that. Look, I think we're going through a super exciting time. I think the last decade has really proven to provide significant innovation around really separating state and money, and that has only manifested itself in all the innovation that's happened from the source of Bitcoin through to smart contracts with Ethereum, through to ICOs, through to DeFi, through to NFTs, metaverses, gaming, etc. And I think it's not going to stop. I think, you know, we as true believers in this industry are really trying to innovate around providing hope for the next generation, building new systems that are suited for an age where every single household today has electricity, everybody has a mobile phone, everybody has the internet as a core utility and a basic necessity that I think we need as a society. And we're building services that are made available and providing access to everybody that can integrate and interact with that infrastructure. So we're disrupting everything. I mean, if I look at what we're trying to do at Truflation and at Nuon, we've launched a tracker of what and how the cost of living changes. Not only are we doing that, we're bringing real world assets and the prices of real world assets on chain. Why? Because all the people that have been trading in real world assets have been doing this in smoky rooms, in dark filled cigar smoked rooms where they're making decisions that nobody has insights into. All of a sudden today, everything is available transparently on a blockchain explorer. Every wallet, every single price of a trade that has happened through Oracle services. How do we now bring economic data and financial data and put that on chain, where just alone, if you look at foreign exchange rates, that's a quadrillion dollar industry, sorry. We can't even figure and imagine how big that industry is. It's unregulated. It's done through thousands of different retailers that are aggregating price information and swapping that around the world in different little tiny shops where remittances can happen. How do we bring that price information and make that available? How do we tokenize all of these assets? And by the way, these tokenized assets are going to be in the form of synthetic tokens, not in the form of waiting for big owners to then put them on the blockchain, securitize them, lock them into some sort of custodial, figure out what the regulatory framework is to make that happen, and then make that available on the blockchain in the form of a token. We've seen how long it's taken them. We've had that promise for 10 plus years, 12, 13 years. Nothing's happened. So we're now at the we're right now at the genesis of bringing all of those assets as synthetic form available to anybody that wants to invest. I'm in Nigeria. I want to buy real estate in New York. Today, I can buy a synthetic token that represents the value of a square foot in New York. I am interested in buying a Tesla share. I want to buy a Tesla share, but I can't get access to the NASDAQ because I don't have a social security ID number. So I can buy a synthetic token that's a representation of the value of a Tesla share. So I can buy into that. All sorts of things like that are beginning to happen. And that to me is the real exciting element. And you're seeing at the same time, we're talking about NFTs. NFTs as JPEGs are just the beginning. These JPEGs are going to become dynamic. They're going to change. You can buy a ticket to an NBA game today. That ticket to one single game has a single value. It's pre the game, you buy it. You can get coupons in that through delivery to that NFT that you own. You can have post-game results. So after the game, it becomes a collectible where you see the MVP of that game, the scores of those players, the seat number that you had, the date that it was. That stays alive, and you can update that throughout the game, and it can be cryptographically verified as that one single ticket that was in B9 on the 12th of January in San Antonio, Texas, or whatever it was, right? At the game between San Antonio and Golden Gate Warriors, whatever it was, but you automatically have that. And so all of these assets are going to become immediately tradable to anybody that has a value in wanting to be a part of that and purchasing that. So there are so many permutations. There are so many opportunities in terms of jobs, in terms of wealth creations, in terms of evangelists, true believers that are in this industry, really trying to engage and create a new, clean, transparent, independent system that allows us as newcomers into the economy to generate wealth and not always be, in front of a brick wall where we have to fill out 500,000 forms to engage, at least enter into the game and play along in that field, where we still have to then, once we've got onto the table, to then work our way up into a huge barrier of entry and in order to get there, where it's all secured and encumbered with all these different walls and processes. So I think it's the most exciting time to be alive and the best industry to be in, if that wasn't clear.
No, your enthusiasm for it, I can feel it through the screen. So I love the passion about it, and I think one of the really interesting points you bring up is that we don't, people are kind of waiting for this like singularity point of like, oh, okay, everything is going to be on chain, and I think you bring up a really great point that we don't necessarily have to get to that point. What's going to happen is if there's enough value to be captured by the ability to be that middleman and create that synthetic asset on chain and be that middle custodian, then that's going to happen until we get to the point where we have the infrastructure in place for any kind of, whether it's a company wants to just, do their IPO and kind of, do like an IPO/ICO and have it kind of regulated to be on chain, or people want to kind of have real world assets come on chain. Like there's going to be this transition period where people are going to be able to create businesses out of being that middleware and being kind of a centralized custodian, because there's still so many other value, so much other value created just by bringing it on chain, that we don't actually have to get to this point where everybody is being the single person adding these things on chain in order to get all that value capture. So I think you bring up a really great point there.
Yeah, and you look at the industry. I mean, we have so many different blockchains, right? We've got a lot of block space out there, if we call it. We've got a lot of developers that are super creative. We need more user experience designers. We need front-end designers that can help build a great user experience to get bigger adoption. This industry has been built up on a series of sprints. It's not a marathon, it's a series of sprints. We work and build up. Once we identify a trend, we all go into that trend. We saw that in the NFT, and the first movers have a significant advantage. From CryptoPunks to the BAYCs and etc. Right, in DeFi, from Uniswap to Aave, they had a unique advantage because they were first mover. But then you saw OpenSea to Raribles, right, and you saw all these movements happen where first movers have advantage, but we have so many new first moving opportunities, and we have those opportunities on multiple different chains. And Amazon didn't turn up overnight and disrupt the whole book industry. They changed the whole game, and it took time to do so. And I think we are going to have our time in the market bringing more and more assets in the form of tokens and make those available to the whole wide world and everybody, not just a select few that,
Yeah, I could not agree more. And I really appreciate the thoughtful response there, Stefan. I would love to pose that same question to Ms. Elsa from BitMetis. Being in this kind of infrastructure NFT kind of metaverse niche, how do you think you guys are positioned as like a Web3 company to be able to bring disruption to Web 2 and some kind of Web 2 experiences that you think may be able to compete?
Hi, thanks for the invitation of BitMetis and me, and it's really an honor to speak with so many amazing speakers. And I think this question is very interesting, that how Web3 is to bring disruptions to Web 2. First of all, let me introduce our project BitMetis. We are building a cross-game infrastructure to provide efficient, secure, and interoperable identity solutions for the whole blockchain game ecosystem, because we focus on the blockchain games sector. So I will answer this question from the perspective of gaming. According to the data, Americans under the age of 35 spend more than 1 hour a day on playing computer games. this time surpassing the sum of sports and the reading time, which means that games are really important to us because I think we can express our emotions freely without social contact in real life. And we also can experience different lives while learning and growing with games. But we know that the centralized developing or the distribution methods of Web2 games have many fundamental problems or flaws nowadays, such as it just happened the day before yesterday in China, in 24th January. The Blizzard games, World of Warcraft, Hearthstones, and other 7 big games, they just the whole national servers will be officially suspended in China. So which is the biggest shutdown in gaming history. Regarding these kind of suspension, players are not only really disappointed and upset, but also they will concern about the ownership of their own assets and accounts. So I think this kind of similar problems or situations will continue to happen in Web2 game world. So can Web3 bring about some fundamental changes? I think it will happen. Because in recent years, blockchain technology has developed fast, and we started to realize that some of the properties of blockchain technology and Web3 are interesting when applied to gaming. So there are some merits which I think will bring the disruptions to the whole Web2 gaming world, such as for the players, the in-game assets, NFT assets, with which histories guarantee the digital property rights for the gamers. And the real gamers and also can participate in the whole developing or the distribution direction, the development direction of the games, which means the gamers will be the true owner of the whole game. And for the developer side, so in blockchain games, the creator economy will be improved because creators can retain much more value than before. And besides that, I think in the crypto model, there will be more opportunity to monetize players for the developer side. So that's why I think it will truly happen. There will be some disruption and fundamental changes to the whole gaming world. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that was fascinating. I think we hear a lot about the games being developed, and we hear a lot about kind of the blockchain infrastructure level, and we don't hear enough about the middleware that's going to help create this interoperability. So I thank you also for coming on and chatting a little bit about some of the things you're seeing that are going to help us get to where we want to as far as the middleware. So last up for our leading projects. We have Ivan Linn, the founder of Wavv, and I would love to kind of pose that same question to you. Is how do you, as an infrastructure provider and as an NFT, as being part of kind of the NFT industry, how do you kind of think Web3 is positioned to bring disruption to kind of the Web2 gaming space?
Cool. Hi, guys. Thanks for having me. So long story short, there is a reason why we created Wavv, which is a Web3 music platform. I speak as a musician myself, started as a classical pianist, got very lucky to get into actually video gaming world around 15 years ago, started as the production assistant for the Final Fantasy original soundtrack production. And one day when we were in the Nickolas studio, there was a piano there, and I started to walk around in the green room and the recording studio. And the pianist who was supposed to record for the soundtracks wasn't able to make it. So the producer was like, "So Ivan, there's a piano over there. Why don't you play a few tunes and make some noise and try to play some music. So I went on and played the entire movement of Rachmaninoff Piano Concerto, which is one of the most iconic concerti in the history. And at the time, I didn't know that on the other side, in Tokyo, Yoko Shimamura, who wrote this music for Street Fighter and Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts, was there listening to the whole thing while I was warming up. And they were like, oh, why don't you go on and be the pianist and record for the soundtrack for yourself? So, I started to get into this community in the video gaming world uh, more or less by accident. And there was a successful production, move on to Kingdom Hearts, Legend of Zelda, eventually be the music director of Assassin's Creed Symphony World Tour, and noticed that how important community is and how unique this will be able to provide a bunch of opportunities out there, but also got really frustrated about how music business is being conducted as a music creator, and also seeing that there are so many, we talk about middlemen, we talk about the party in between creators and consumers. So that was the idea about creating Wavv, empowering artists by giving them an additional choice where they'll be able to host their music publicly by themselves. They'll be able to use tokens and NFT as part of the royalty program to always have that benefit when there's transactions for music NFTs and for their audio asset. So I think it's important that for music creators, they're really good at creating great music and to be a creative, but not necessarily fascinated about negotiating contracts and work on the music business part. So it becomes quite critical for the music community to have this kind of tool and service to be provided, which is lower bar, much easier to access, that music creators would be able to focus on what they're really good at, which is creating music, and to use the service. Like right now, we do have like GarageBand, right? You'll be able to create music in your bathroom. Billie Eilish 2 years ago won several Grammys by producing an album in her bedroom. So we really start to see how easy it is to produce music. But after spending hours and hours to have your mastering done, it's only the beginning. You have to work with publishers, distributors, you have to work with royalties, you have to work with a bunch of agencies in order to get your music out there. And it's really old-fashioned. It's almost like 100 years ago when you were about to make a call from New York to Boston. There's this kind of like in the middle, there's an operator trying to wire you to be connected to the other party. And that's more of like how music is being conducted right now. And music travels internationally. So different countries, different cities would have different regulations and different agencies that you have to register, you have to go through. So it's not necessarily comfortable and convenient for musicians and creators to be out there to handle all the businesses. And that's why in terms of Web3 and the technology of blockchain becomes really critical and essential, where these services will be able to be provided, and also to be democratizing ownership, that revenue, copyright, commissions would be returned back to music creators to really empower them and to have them focus on what they're really good at. Right now I'm traveling in Asia because coming from video gaming world, we've been talking to a bunch of really great anime and video gaming music creators and composers. And you guys know that Assassin's Creed this year has been nominated at Grammy Awards. It's actually the first time in the history where a video gaming soundtrack is nominated in a acknowledged mainstream music award. So there's a lot to do. We love to work with artists. Now we're working with Yoko Shimamura, who wrote the music for Final Fantasy to be on the platform, and many more. So we wanted to open the gate to music creators, because Wavv is a pretty much music-focused music platform. So we wanted to work with as many artists as we can, and to really leverage by working with great talents throughout the world.
Awesome. That was incredibly insightful. I think the music kind of NFT space is one that everybody kind of has a really close eye on, and just kind of knows that there's so many intermediaries in the process that there's just a lot of value to be created, and kind of given to the right parties, and not middlemen. So very excited for Wavv and the kind of music NFT landscape. Uh, yeah, thank you so much for hopping on and chatting with us, Ivan. Unfortunately, we would love to kind of sit here and ask more questions to all of our leading projects, but unfortunately, I don't think we have enough time to go for another one. All of our leading projects, we had Alex from Rarible, we had Stefan from Lagu.na, Josh Fraser from Origin, Elsa from BitMetis, Ivan Linn, who you just heard from Wavv, and Sandy Carter from Unstoppable Domains. Thank you all so much, all of our leading projects. Please do check out all of our leading projects that just had a chance to speak. Follow our speakers and their projects as well. These are some some of the most profound projects in the space. So really appreciate your guys' time and to come and chat with us.
Thanks for having us.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys. So before we move on to our crypto venture section, we did want to hit our first quiz question. I was told I got to make sure I hit this one. So our first question, and whoever will be the first person to answer this question under the BitMart, the main, it is the first pinned tweet that we have shared by BitMart Exchange. And the question is, how many new tokens were listed on BitMart for spot only in 2022? I'll repeat it again. How many new tokens were listed on BitMart spot in 2022? So the answer, whoever is the first to answer that question, is going to be a winner of 100 USDT. I think I can think of a few things to use 100 USDT for right now. I'm sure a lot of you guys can as well. So first one to get that answer correctly under the first tweet pinned is going to win 100 USDT. But I think now is a great time to move on and transition to our crypto venture section. I think this is one everybody's really excited about. We have an awesome lineup. So we have James Parillo, a general partner at Figment Capital. We have Peter Yang, a managing director at Fenbushi Capital. We have Maria Chak, head of gaming and Metaverse at Republic Crypto. We have Kenny Wu, who's an investment director at Emurgo Ventures. We have Eric Bai, who's a managing director at Cipholio Ventures. And then lastly, we have Paul Solntsev, who's the head of the Cointelegraph Accelerator. So if you could just feel free to request to hop up on stage, we'd love to have you guys up here. Oh, and then we also have Miss Lee Fan, who is not only a partner at Cipholio Ventures, but also the chief strategy officer at BitMart as well. She's going to come in and help me out moderating some of this crypto venture section. So I'd love to hand it off to Lee, and feel free to take it from here.
Thanks, Ishan. Hi, everyone. Really glad to be here, and thanks for the patience. And today we have some really exciting VCs here speaking with us, and I'm really excited about this because they're top-notch VC panelists. And I have a lot of questions to ask on behalf of our audience. Now, since there are 7 of us, let's make it more interactive. Hot takes are definitely welcome and even encouraged. And if you're on mute for too long, I might just have to call on you. So maybe let's start with the first question. Let me check to make sure all the speakers are on. Great, I see Peter, Kenny. I think we might be missing a few. James, is James on?
Yeah, hey.
Hey, James.
I'm Velvet Milkman. Doxed.
Okay, got it. And then I think we have Paul and Eric and Maria. Just give it one more second. Well, why don't we get started? I think others are kind of gathering as we speak. I know we're kind of in the middle of the segment or running a little bit late. So let me kick off with the first question. We've had a recent rally lately in the last few days, but despite the rally, the last couple months of 2022 has been very eventful and very unprecedented. Now, given the kind of the turmoil as well as all the bankruptcy filings, which we've been expecting for a little bit. What are some of the trickle down domino effects that you think is taking place right now? And how will that affect the crypto ventures community? And please use both, your own portfolio companies example as well as projects that you hope to invest in. And James, why don't we kick it off with you?
Oh, okay. Thanks, Lee. So, hey, everybody. I'm James Parillo, managing partner at Figment Capital. We're an early stage blockchain venture fund that focuses primarily on investing in blockchain infrastructure, because that's what we're best at. We're more of like an operator investor in the space because we spun out of Figment Inc. So there's a lot of ways to go and directions to go with this. I'll opt for like the optimistic perspective, just because we are kind of seeing a little bit of like a little boost in the prices, and so in sentiment and in people's spirits, which is great. I think what we saw was like in December, it was like really we were pretty heavily oversold a little bit. Like it was pretty dark days there for a little while, and we saw a lot of uncertainty. I think there's still uncertainty in the markets. There's definitely still some macro issues that we're going to have to deal with and that we're going to have to face and think about. And there's certainly some bankruptcies that look like they have either they're on the horizon, or we've seen a few this week and last week that are big names in the space. And ultimately, like what's been, I think, the most difficult for me to watch over the last, I would say, like 12 months to 9 months has been the impact on retail investors. It starts with Luna, which was like a heavy Luna, like it was a heavy holder and investor in Luna. People lost their life savings. We're seeing something similar with FTX. But, at the same time, with a lot of the, I guess we'll say like a lot of the contagion, but not all of it has been a little bit washed out. There becomes an opportunity to like kind of see narratives begin to spring up that are more, I would say, crypto and blockchain native. We're going to start to see like a focus on MPC wallets. It's been about 2 years in the making and development, maybe a year and a half in development, where MPC wallets could potentially be decentralized and be available for retail investors, which I think is going to be great. Self-custody is going to kind of go into like its next stage of adoption. I think that's really exciting. I think liquid staking is seeing a really like an emergence, and we're starting to also see, signs of life on the retail side. The L1 thesis, people were a little wondering whether it was going to, whether its time had passed. And what we're seeing now is like there will probably always be some sort of appetite for L1 theses. Aptos is pumping right now with really, which is an interesting one. It's not in our portfolio. Canto is pumping right now, not in our portfolio. But I think we're going to see a bunch of mini narratives and mini trends, and I think these are going to lead to like just I think a very interesting 2023 as like the market and as the industry tries to kind of come to grips with some of the contagion still spilling out. But at the same time, there is real tech here. There are very interesting innovations in the middleware, especially in middleware that are being built, applications that are being built. And I think it's going to really like kind of be a really amazing time when we look back in a few years, when we think about 2023 and like sort of the phoenix rising from the ashes.
That's great. That's great. Do we have the rest of the speaker on as well? Anyone would like to chime in on that?
I guess I can give a little bit of opinion of mine as well. So
great. Thank you, Peter.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of fallout, over the different cycles, we have seen fraudulent activities as well as behaviors similar to what FTX and Genesis and say like the other funds as well, where they have collapsed. But for this cycle, I would say the impact is much more bigger in terms of both geography and the number of people it affects. Whereas previous cycles, these collapses are siloed, and usually in towards the early stage, but for this cycle, we have seen a lot of more later stage companies where they have been through several cycles and they have gone under. So this time, I feel like it definitely hurts a lot more than before. But in terms of fallout, I don't think we should see any more direct immediate impact, at least for the primary market. Usually for the venture markets, we do see typically a 6 month lag in terms of prices as well as activity. So one way you can kind of parallel this is we saw the top of market in about a year ago, but for valuations and raises, they did not calm down until say like towards last summer, so to speak. But and for earlier stage startups, they're even less impacted in terms of their build process. Although valuation and the size of the raises have gone down dramatically. And so for me, I don't think there will be a lot of fallout continue going forward, especially with the amount of uncertainty. But in terms of say the project we support, we still kind of continue to expect a lot of good companies to come out, especially if you parallel this current crash to the .com bubble. There were a lot of internet companies that existed before, but it's only after the .com bubble where we found Amazon, Google, and the tech giants we see today. Although I do believe one component that I will be focusing a lot more on is the impact of regulation. So before the FTX left, in the U.S. we have DCCPA going through, which is much more favorable to existing centralized exchanges. But now with FTX and its fallout, that I think will eventually be amended, and I believe we will see some sort of more legislation coming through this year. In addition to that, investor will have much higher standards, I would say. For the later stage investors, we are seeing them kind of pulling out of blockchain businesses for companies they've invested in because they're kind of afraid of headline risk. And for the earlier stage companies and investors, we're seeing a lot more asking for audited financials, especially by big fours. So I think how it will play out over the next year, I think it will be interesting to see whether startups, shell out more money for meeting investor demands, whether it's from like a audit or financial perspective, or in terms of product market fit or revenue. Or they could choose the other route of not launching or building their startup within US, and they can move to offshore or other under continents where there's less regulatory scrutiny. So there are multiple ways about going that. So we either see more startups in other countries, or we see much higher better practices for startups in general. So that's kind of my expectation for the next year. So.
Thanks, Peter. Now, you mentioned something on due diligence, which is perfect lead into my next question. Let's talk about diligence in crypto ventures. Now, coming from traditional tech VC, I've always found crypto investing diligence a little bit challenging, partly because the projects are much earlier in nature, pre-revenue, generally, with not everything built out, but also because a lot of projects are behind management teams with pseudonames, etc. How do you guys go about doing diligence into these startups that you guys invest in? And feel free. I think, Paul, you come from the Accelerator side, so would love to kind of hear your view on this, and then would also love to have Eric and Ken chime in as well.
Hi there. Yeah, hi. Can you hear me well?
Perfect. Crystal clear, Paul.
Hi, good. Thanks so much for having me. It's a great discussion. So in terms of how we approach due diligence, so we do have like three fundamental parts that we're looking at, and these are basically the product, the market, and the team. And when we're looking at potential candidates to the acceleration program, we need to get comfortable that the product that the guys are trying to build or like envisaging to build can actually solve someone's problems, apart from the founder's problem of not being able to fundraise or to like raise money. And we try to avoid like projects that do like blockchain solutionism, where like the founders are trying to plug in blockchain solution and crypto solution to things that don't really need them or that don't really solve real problems. So I guess from the product side, we just want to make sure that someone really needs it, and there is like a problem, a real problem that a project is going to be able to solve. Then from the market perspective, we of course want to work with projects that tend to work on large markets, as any other investor would. And the specifics in crypto in relation to this is that since with the single digit penetration of almost all products in crypto, if you have this sort of vision and belief that Web3 can somewhat disrupt traditional business models and Web2 or whatsoever, if you look at the markets, so the markets would look generally promising and fed, simply because very low penetration. If you invest at a stage where the penetration is low and you have a good product, then it has potential to grow, as opposed to like mature industry, for example, I don't know, cellular networks where you have high penetration. And the third like fundamental part is basically the team. So we just need to get comfortable that given that there is a product that can actually solve someone's problems, and there's a large market for that product, we need to be comfortable that the team is able to deliver, and they have sufficient intelligence, energy, and discipline to execute. So ideally, you would want to have founders with previous experience in startups. Not always possible, of course, but so going back to your point, so three main points that we'll look at is product, market, and the team. And like in more practical aspects, we work with projects that already have their MVPs or like demo products or whatsoever. So something clickable and something that we can test. And what we normally look at this stage is we're looking at the traction of the product. So basically any metrics about how the products are used, like users, transactions, whatsoever. And we just want to make sure that there is a demand for this product, that users that test this product like it, and so on and so on. So that's basically the key thing that we are looking at.
Kenny and Eric, would you guys like to chime in a little bit? Eric, I'm going to call on you now.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Lee. So thank you, Paul, for the sharing, which is very insightful. I think we have similar view regarding the market sector for sure, that we hold the same position, that we're thinking about how to bring more Web2 users to the Web3. And for example, that we are looking at the fiat, wallet, gaming, and DeFi side, and where we think those infrastructure or the sectors can bring more users, and which we take more serious look on those projects. And second, that we think about how to make the Web3 or crypto space more sustainable. And for example, there's like current projects on the DeFi side, they bring the real world yield, for example, like rates in the US or US bond treasury yield into the DeFi world to create the fundamental yield in the DeFi space, and then based on that can create a synthetic assets, so on and so forth. So, and thirdly is we also looked at the team for sure, and the different approaches, because we invest in a lot of projects that we invest or incubate are pre-seed. So therefore, recently we launched BitMart and Cipholio scholarship, and to attract the talents in different like prestigious schools in the market, and to brainstorm and to learn, and also to work in different projects. And as based on the the 4 months, 6 months like rotation and learning process, we can spot the talents that had the potential and in the market, and we can further guide them how to solve the problems in the market, and then to further invest and incubate. And so those are the things that we are looking in the market. I would like to add one my observation as well. So I think if the market stay as status quo as now, and will be a lot of projects that run out of their runway in the next 6 months. So therefore, in terms of the supporting the project, and what we are thinking is we really need to help the project to survive in the bear market right now, and to really cut their costs. And we are always like emphasizing this with our portfolio. And last but not least, and I observed that a lot of markets are like investment side are very slowing down right now, and a lot of investors in the US and Asia, they are hold a little bit, and if they would like to invest, they would like to invest something, first of all, in the fundamental side, and like the infrastructure, and secondly, they are looking for something that with the revenue, for example, like staking or regular exchange or security audit firm, and those sectors are still like growing, even though that's in a bear market right now.
Thanks, Eric. And I think you hit on something that's really crucial, is the runway of these projects and these deals. And it goes back to the trade-off between profitability and growth, which is very often what we focus on in the Web2 space. Now, Kenny, maybe I can ask you a slightly related question, which is, for these pre-revenue projects and early stage projects in the crypto space, how do you think about valuation? How do you think about when you're writing your term sheets, et cetera?
Yes, Lee, thanks for the question. So regarding the valuation part, because most of the projects in the pre-C or C round stage, they're quite early. So in the Web3 world, also kind of lacking those kind of mechanism and criteria for investors to evaluate the expected value of each project. But regarding the comparison and revaluation, some components or methods we are actually using is, first of all, to try to find some comparables and compare each project based on the tractions, because we believe in digital space, tractions is always the key. And especially for like GameFi and SocialFi and a lot of like tools projects, how do you onboard more users and also retain those users in your community is actually the key for the growth of each project. So I believe by comparing those kind of tractions with each project, and you will actually get a sense about like what kind of valuations it will be created for each project. And secondly,
Hi, everyone. Is everyone getting back on here? Third time's the charm. This is testing the loyalty our listeners have. This is great.
We are so back.
Thanks, James. I see Peter's back. I see I think Kenny. I think Kenny was in the middle of sharing some great insights. And Maria, I think we're just gathering. Oh, look, Kenny's back. Great. Hi, Kenny. Sorry, we had to cut you off. Unfortunately, we'll write to Mr. Twitter and have him get this fixed. Now, Kenny,
Yeah,
before we
no
got
problem.
dropped, you were talking about valuation and the different terms and the structures, and we'll love it if you can kind of finish your thoughts on there.
Yeah, so as I just mentioned, basically when we consider the valuation, one of the key criteria we're going to focus on is attractions. And secondly, we're going to focus on more on sustainability. So this actually, I believe, is one of the key effects due to those kind of FTX and Genesis incidents. So right now, as Eric also mentioned, Peter also mentioned, right now runway and also the ability to bootstrap the projects by themselves and to have the capability of generating their own cash flow is actually the key. So from my own point of view, like more like a 2B or 2C, 2B, 2C business model will be very effective in this market because those kind of projects can actually generate revenue and some cash flow in the bearish market to make sure they can be more sustainable. And in the bullish market, those kind of projects can onboard more users to their communities and also to generate even more revenue and profit in the long terms. So I also saw BitMetis was there. So basically BitMetis, they are also more like a 2B or 2C platform, which actually they can onboard a lot of tractions and users, and also they have they're developing their own wallet, so they can actually generate more sustainable and stable cash flow to other business customers as well. And right now they're also in portfolio as well. So in summary, I believe in bearish market, still like a good project is always a good project. But regarding the valuation side, we'll focus more on the traction side and also the sustainability, which basically means how to generate their own cash flow in the long term.
Thank you, Kenny. That was great, and especially given that you had to break up your thoughts into two separate Twitter talks. Now let's switch side a little bit, and from the investing side into the developer side. I would love to address this to Maria if you're back on, and also James. What are some advice that you would give to entrepreneurs and developers looking to build in the Web3 and Metaverse space? Maria and James? And if Maria's not back on, James, would love to have you take the lead on this one.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'll talk about the Web3 space. Metaverse is a little bit maybe outside of like where we generally invest.
Yeah, I tailored that part for Maria, so you
Okay.
can have the Web3 space.
Cool. Yeah. So I think in the Web3 space with builders, I mean, obviously there's two types. I think the first is folks that have been in the space for a really long time, that have built, that have reputations of having shipped. And, those reputations come, I think, with I think some clout. And so ultimately it'll be easier for those teams, especially in this type of market, to raise. Secondly, you're going to have a lot of earlier teams, maybe new entrepreneurs that are trying for their first time. My recommendation is a few things. Know what you're good at and hire for what you're not. Don't try to do everything at once. Don't try to be everything for everyone. CEO and CTO are two very different roles that require very different skill sets quite often. Some people can do it, but don't try to do everything yourself. You are a talented individual who perhaps has an idea or is joining a team, and you're going to be able to add a lot of value, some of which is like, innate that you have right now. Other skills you're going to develop and build over, the course of the next few years as you're working with this team. You'll be asked to do things that you've never done before. They'll be challenging. You'll find out what you like. You'll find out what you're good at. You'll find out what you don't like. You'll find out what, unfortunately, or fortunately, we find out quite often what we're not good at as well. Try to improve, but ultimately, like, really the goal here is to not be everything for everyone. Do what you're best at. Work with people that you respect, that make you better every day, that push you and motivate you to work really hard. Work as a team. It's incredibly important to work together and row in the same direction, not always against each other. And lastly, make sure that you have like all the pieces of the puzzle. You'll oftentimes, like, especially in different cycles, you see maybe it's an overly academic team that's never built anything before, or it's a team that consistently builds.
Oh, and I'm back too. Hi everyone, thanks so much for the patience. I think before we just got cut off for the third time. James, are you back on?
Yeah, hey, I'm still here.
You were giving amazing insight, so I would hate it for for us to not continue. But given the time, maybe we can have you wrap up and then go to the last question before the last session.
Yeah, sure. I think I don't remember what I was saying, but I think the last thing I was going to say about it was like, in this new market, every cycle has like a different sort of focus as we get closer and closer, I think, to what you see in traditional venture. And so, what we're going to likely see more and more frequently is like, yes, this is cool technology. Yes, we are still looking for like innovative, disruptive technologies that are going to be brought through blockchain, through decentralization. However, product market fit is becoming more important. Like you'll hear value accrual a lot, or like what's the go to market, and these are things that maybe in the past, earlier over the last 2 years, were not things that teams had to think about when they were launching a blockchain or an interoperability protocol or a DeFi protocol, but they're becoming more and more important as the industry matures. So must the strategies, and they must look more fully fleshed. And this market where it's not just idea guys now, because it's not bull market, it's bear market. And so making sure that you have, when you're choosing you're choosing your founders, you're choosing your employees, you're choosing the people that you're going to be working with. So choose wisely and strategically, and make sure that the people that you're working alongside and spending late hours with, and skipping sometimes really important life events for, are people that are going to be there for you, are going to be there through thick and thin, and also at the same time are going to complement you and your skill set, and bring a full package, or have a vision for what a full package could potentially look like, even if everything isn't fleshed out on the very beginning. You want people there that are going to be there and that you're going to want to take that journey with. So choose wisely.
Great insight. Great insight. Thank you so much. Now, with respect to time, let me just ask this one question to every single one of our speakers from the crypto venture space. Let's take out your crystal ball. Where do you think we go from here in 2023? And Peter, Eric, and James would love to have, and Kenny would love to have you each give a brief take, just a very brief take.
I guess I can kind of continue. For me, like I mentioned previously, I think regulation is going to play a very big role. But to what degree, I'm still kind of not certain. I do feel like probably something starting with the stablecoin regulation probably will be a first. And, over in Europe, we're seeing Mika, and in the UK, there's also separate legislation going on. So I think how those play out will in turn affect how, the industry in terms of compliance, as well as what projects people are willing to build and how to build them more specifically. So in terms of the different verticals, I assume we will go through phases of growth and bust as well. But in terms of standards, I was assumed over the next year and hopefully into the cycles, investors will have much more demand for sustainable business models as well as transformative business models. So that's what I'm kind of looking forward to.
Thank you, Peter. Eric?
Yeah, thank you.
Quick,
So,
quick 30 seconds.
yeah, I would like to share one sector that worth worthwhile the attention. That is the LSD sector, and we know that Shanghai upgrade of Ethereum will be happen in March, and based on that, there will be a lot of derivatives based on on Ethereum and happening in the market right now, which was worthwhile attention of everyone. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Kenny, if you're still on, would love to get your take.
Yeah, I think for 2023, a few focus. First one, as I mentioned, tractions. Also, as everybody mentioned, regulations and securities. How to make the Web3 space more decentralized, more secured, and also more compliant will be the key. So I believe something more in the infrastructure and layer 2 side will be the key focus.
Great. And last but not least, James.
Man, a lot of regulation here. A lot of regulation bulls in crypto. What an interesting group of ideas and thoughts. I would say we got to scale. We're going to scale horizontally. We're going to scale through app chains. We're going to scale vertically through L2s and L3s. We're going to scale vertically and horizontally through L3s that are application-specific roll-ups. This is all going to be interoperable. It's going to be super complex. We're going to have incredible, interesting interoperability protocols that are going to continue to push the boundaries of what we think is possible, particularly with ZK bridging, which is going to bring in an interesting component. Blockchain has been the lead investor in ZK technology and bringing it to where it is today. And so we'll continue to see ZK proliferation within blockchain, which will focus on both creating more efficient blockchains, more complex and rich data sets, and also hopefully focus a little bit on privacy. And so regulatory, you can be regulatory compliant and private, which I think is something that we're really excited at looking into. And then lastly, something that we're really excited about is user experience and improving the user experience. Front end account abstraction on Ethereum is going to be super incredible. Keep an eye out for account abstraction and teams building wallets that are going to help users onboard onboard users. And so quite honestly, that's what we invest in. That's what we think about: scalability, interoperability, privacy, ZK tech, and user experience. And that's what we're going to be focusing on. That's what we're going to be looking for. We have some announcements coming up. Figment Capital has some pretty cool announcements coming up over the next few weeks, so keep an eye out. And we're looking forward to meeting you all in East Denver if you're there.
Great. Thank you all very much. We have a great list of VCs who spoke with us. And with that, why don't I turn it back to the host, Ishan? I think we have one more session.
Yeah. Thank you again. And this last section is a little bit on the shorter end. So I would love to also, if some of our venture partners and speakers are free, would love to have you guys also chime in on our final section where we hit L1s and L2s. But before we do get to that, we do have our second quiz question. And just like we said at the beginning of our original space, the first person to answer this question is going to be able to win 100 USDT. So the second question, the second quiz question that we have for the audience is which quarter was BitMart recognized by CoinGecko as a dark horse? Again, which quarter was BitMart recognized by CoinGecko as a dark horse in the crypto space? So again, if you look to if you go to the main BitMart exchange Twitter, you're going to see one of the tweets where we introduce the space, and over there you can go in and drop the answer, and the first person to drop the answer will win 100 USDT. So. But without further ado, it's been a long night, but we appreciate our partners for kind of staying on. We do want to hit this final section, which is L1s and L2s. One of the kind of most important areas to kind of discuss. So joining us, we have Jasmine Wan, who is the co-founder of Sui World. So Jasmine, if you could kind of request to speak so that we can bring you up here. And then we also have Chris, who is the global expansion manager at Conflux Network. So if we could get Jasmine and Chris on here, and would also love to have some of our venture partners up here as well to kind of talk through some of these questions. So we'll open up the floor to them as well. So I see Jasmine. Thank you for hopping up here. I guess while Chris gets up here, we can just start with you. So as far as L1s and L2s, what factors do you anticipate that are going to really contribute to the demand and utilization of new blockchains, newly emerging blockchains as new L1s and L2s emerge?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me. And this is Justin from Sui World. We are the first CPAC community for Sui ecosystem. Since last September, we make bilingual content and build up the developer communities and host some events. For the question, since Sui has announced to launch the mainnet in Q2, it reminds me of the case about Solana and Terra. I remember one noticed data for TVL in last March. Ethereum has less than 15% of the whole TVL, and Terra maybe the second place, and Solana is the third one. And why Terra has so much proportion of the whole TVL? That's because it has a 20% APY, and it attracts many traditional VC and funds to invest on crypto fund. Then they will invest on Anchor. So that the highlight of the case is if you can get nearly 0.1% of the traditional funds, and it will have a huge impact for the whole industry. And second case about Stefan on Solana, it attracts many retail users. So it has grown rapidly. So for these two cases, I guess the first factor is about you can get support from the traditional funds, like some famous and well-known big investors in traditional industry. Once you can invest just a little bit on the crypto, then you can improve your TVL. And the second factor is about the retailer user. If you have the killer application, then you can attract the TVL from retailer users. It will help a lot for your whole blockchain. Yeah, that's the two cases I like to share about the question.
That was really awesome insight. I personally have been pretty bullish on some of these move language based smart contract platforms. So super excited for that. Thank you for that insight, and especially coming from kind of the APAC community as well. I'd love to pose that same question to Chris. I see we have Chris up here from Conflux. I really want to hit that same question, which is like, what factors do you think are going to kind of contribute to the demand for L1s? I really love the analogy of like blockchain sell block space, right? So where do you kind of see the demand for all of this new block space coming into kind of the ecosystem? Where do you see the demand coming from?
Hey guys, first of all, thank you for having me here today. And yeah, it's almost been a year since Conflux also listed on BitMart, and we're very happy about the partnership that we have. I think there are so many different aspects when we talk about it, and I think today what I have been listening in, and regulation is a big part that we have been talking about, and many guests also agree on. And I think regulation is a very important factor for the next wave and also the upcoming years to shape this industry and see where it can be used for further adoptions in the future, regardless of it, if it's a layer 1 or a layer 2. That I can always share, because Conflux is the only publicly endorsed public blockchain here in China, where I am right now. We see that throughout, Conflux has been launched since 2022, but we started to work on it since 2018, and it's been a while now, right? It's been 5 years, and we've always wanted to be regulatory compliant, and luckily we are, because since last year we've seen major shifts within the landscape, the regulatory landscape here in China, to say what is allowed and what is not allowed with blockchain technology, because China has been endorsing blockchain technology itself as a permission blockchain since 2017 as well. And here the regulatory policy is, okay, NFTs, so ERC 722s and ERC 1155s are fully compliant, but they need to be sold via the fiat currency, the RMB here, right? And while this might be counterproductive for many layer ones or people who are using blockchain technology the way we're using it now, it also makes sense because fiat currency or the digital RMB here is what more than 1 billion people use on a daily basis, especially here in China. No one goes out with their wallets here anymore. No one takes their passports with them or ID cards. Is just on their phone, and they can do everything on their phone. You go to an open market, you want to pay for something, it's via your mobile phone. And since last year of May, China has put out this regulation that, NFTs or these non-fungible tokens can be used in China. And since then, we've been seeing a big shift from companies adopting the big companies, right? And most of them have been using permission blockchains, for example, Hyperledger Fabrics or other ones. And while this has been happening on Conflux Network, we have a more decentralized community that has been building up use cases. And since last year, we've grown from 20 local fully registered companies in China to now more than 150, including NFT marketplaces, including community builders or hackers, but also developer supporters. And we're seeing more and more big companies coming in and deploying NFTs on Conflux. For example, McDonald's, you have Oreo, and the latest one, which I'm very happy to announce, and is also relative new news, is that Little Red Book, aka Xiaohongshu, China's Instagram with integrated Shopee functions, with more than 150 million monthly active users, has integrated Conflux NFTs or the Conflux blockchain into their system, so people can actually show their NFTs on Conflux on their profile page. And I think this is one of the big steps towards scaling or utilizing the block space more and more, is to partner up or have big companies with a lot of traffic to leverage this blockchain technology that has been created since 2013, since the creation of Bitcoin. And so another aspect is also that we need to onboard developers quicker, and one of the 2C front ends also need to be easier. And I think I hope with MPC wallets this can be a more simplistic way to onboard people into the space. And ideally, people, shouldn't even notice a difference when they log into any dApp in the future, when they compare to their Web2 experience, because that's what people are used to. And the whole paradigm shift from storing your key somewhere yourself and not losing them is just complicated for too many people, or also maybe unnecessary for the majority of people in this world who just want to use this technology like the internet or like wiring some money. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I think that was some really great context, and I think the kind of theme there is like friction reduction, right? Like we have so much friction in whether it's payment networks or marketplaces, and all these different areas. We have so much friction, so many layers, and I think that's one of the big things that's going to create the demand and utilization of all this block spaces, like all of these specific areas where we can reduce a lot of this friction. And I'd love to open that same question up to some of our other speakers. I see we still have James from Figment here, and Lee as well. Is like, where do you guys kind of see the demand for block space kind of really coming from at the highest level, at least as we're looking at 2023? Okay, I think we might have lost them. So I think we can move on to the kind of the second question that we had, which is, you know, we saw 2022 kind of be this year that we saw the kind of L222 meme come in, and really saw our way meme the L2 kind of narrative into existence. So I'd love to ask this question to Jasmine first, which is, what's kind of your opinion on the L3 narrative that we're starting to see, and we're seeing a lot more researchers come out and discuss the opportunity for whether it's I think app chains can be a good equivalent, or if you see kind of like application specific L3s coming that are built on top of L2s. How do you kind of see the kind, and I guess for Jasmine we can ask the question about how do you see the modular versus monolithic kind of blockchain system going?
Okay, thank you. Actually, I don't know what is layer 3. I think it's a little bit tricky. Many builders are working on the layer 2 on Ethereum, and optimistic maybe is one case. But some layer 2 projects, they are actually very centralized, like the YDX. It's, I guess, no difference from the ordinary CEX. So they will name themselves as a decentralized DEX on-chain. So there is concern about security about the layer 2 project Ethereum. And of course, KGVM is a hot topic recently, and developers are trying to solve this problem. They may use some not efficient ways, even with a combination with some hardware to solve this problem on Ethereum. ZK will help to solve the problem of the performance on the layer 1 of Ethereum. So we are definitely looking forward to some more layer 2 solutions based on the layer 1 consensus layer. And actually, at the same time, Mu ecosystem Aptos and 3, they are another they either heading to another direction for this question. They are building another kind of layer 1 for everyone. They have better scalability and better security based on the Mu programming language. Maybe in future we can see some projects as a bridge to combine the consensus from layer 1 of Ethereum and the advantages of Mu language. Maybe the Mu VM on Ethereum. So that's the projects we are looking forward. And another point is about the layer 3 projects. I don't know about the specific definition of layer 3, but I guess some projects are working as a bridge to connect different blockchains like layer 0 and wormhole. I guess that's the necessary part for the whole industry. But it's very dangerous. People will care about the security. So I will be very open to this layer 3 projects, and we'll be glad to see more possibilities from this space. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd love to kind of pass that final question on to Chris as well, which is essentially, and I think we can go a little more broad than doing the L3 discussion, but more or less, how are you kind of seeing scaling, and what kind of things do you think we're going to see coming down the scaling pipeline in 2023?
Yeah, thanks. It's a great question. I think like within this industry we are all in, the scaling issue has always been there, and everyone is trying to solve the scaling issue, especially with the L1s that have emerged since 2017. And one trend that we can see is that most of the new layer 1s or layer 2s, while they are very scalable, they are not fully utilized. And I think that's the first problem that we still need to solve before going into scaling even further. But I think that app chains or layer 3s are great for games, and especially for games of a massive scale that need their own customization when it comes to, for example, transaction costs, and the speed itself for the user to have a smooth UI and the UX. So the game developers can really focus on the experience of the game. What we've seen in the gamify industry in the past 2 years is nothing to say, okay, this is the future of gaming or anything. So hopefully there will be a big company developing on top of an app chain in the upcoming years to really bring this technology into fruition and for more people to enjoy in the back end. I think that's great. But also my co-guest has said, I think there are interesting use cases for bridges. Oftentimes when layer 2s emerge, they do talk about, we are the extension, the layer 2 of Ethereum, and this will make the onboarding, the on and off ramping of native assets more easy. Then we have the optimistic rollups like Arbitrum and Optimism, where the roll-up time is fairly fast, but the roll-off time takes 4 to 7 days or even hours, and that's something that the user does not enjoy, right? So I think that is the reason why the optimistic roll-ups do need to connect different bridges so that people they can use the built-in security for fast on-ramping, but for fast off-ramping they can still use a different bridge, and that somewhat defies the purpose of the direct connection between the bridge between the layer 2 and the layer 1. And maybe there can be an app chain of a bridge that serves as an active layer 2 between different networks, so that the assets can then truly be roaming around between the different chains in an even more secure way, but also use CK technology or other means that I've never heard of to make this experience faster than ever before. I think that's great. And with more regulatory compliant or blockchain with more regulations that are pro blockchain technology throughout the world, hopefully bigger players or other players with different backgrounds than we currently have in this industry can create new use cases that can actually be used on a daily basis for everyone to enjoy. It's not just remittance, maybe on just for marketing, maybe for user retention to use it. Maybe there's things that we haven't thought of right now, and are still things that are not only DeFi, not just gamify, not just remittance out there, to actually build use cases that need even more scalability than we have right now.
Yeah, I think that makes total sense. I think gaming is a great example of, some of the trade-offs that you have to make. You might have to sacrifice some security in order for, UI and UX. But at the end of the day, like in L3, you're not fully compromising security, and you still get all of the benefits of, the ownership of the assets and kind of digital ownership without necessarily needing like every single application to be like completely decentralized. I think there's trade-offs all over the board, and I think you hit that in a really awesome way. First off, I want to thank all of our partners that have come up here tonight. It's been quite a long night with a few situations, but I think we've handled it and kind of moved through them really efficiently. So first off, I want to really thank all of our partners that took the time out here to kind of stick with us, especially our L1, L2 partners over here at the end with Miss Jasmine from Sui World and Chris from Conflux, and all of our venture partners as well as our leading projects. They spent a lot of time with us, so we are super, super grateful for time spent. I'd like to give a huge thank you to the BitMart team. They've been amazing. Miss Lee, who's the CSO at BitMart, as well as Nick Hoog, who is the VP of marketing at BitMart. I mean, they've been amazing in helping set this up. The rest of the BitMart team through everything that's happened. So unfortunately, we do not have time for the AMA. But before we go, we do have our third quiz question. And again, just like at the beginning, and you can click on this pinned tweet in order to comment the answer to it. But our third and final question before we get out of here is, which 2 new products were launched on BitMart in 2022? Again, which 2 new products were launched on BitMart in 2022? So the first person to answer that in the pinned tweet by commenting under the pinned tweet will have the opportunity to win 100 USDT. So we really appreciate the audience for sticking around. This has been a long night, but a really, really informative night. We've got to hear from some of the top projects in this space, some of the top venture capitalists and capital allocators, some leaders from different layer 1 and layer 2 infrastructure providers, as well as Wes Kapalan, the CEO of Cointelegraph US, and the some of the leadership team at BitMart as well. So I think today went really well. We hope that you guys join us in the future, where we will definitely have less technical difficulties, but we appreciate everybody that's been able to stay on with us for this time. Super informative, a really great night, a lot of great insight, and we will see you guys next time. So thank you again, everybody, on behalf of the BitMart team, and we will catch you guys next time. I appreciate it, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Nice talking to you.
Thanks for the invite, and thanks for the amazing hosting.